The Bible reading is from Zechariah 13, 7-9. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, against the man who stands next to me, declares the Lord of hosts. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scattered. I will turn my hand against the little ones. In the whole land, declares the Lord. 2/3 shall be cut off and perish, and 1/3 shall be left alive. And I will put this third into the fire, and refine them as one refines silver, and test them as gold is tested. They will call upon my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people, and they will say, the Lord is my God.
Really good morning to all. How are you at accepting advice? Do you listen to your family and friends when they tell you something? And how are you when you're getting in your vehicle driving down the road? Are you looking at the signs? Are you observing them? Better yet, are you scanning the road? Are you reading the road, looking for potholes or raised manhole covers? And are your eyes 2 blocks ahead, looking for anything that you're going to come upon really quickly? There's so much in life that we have to be careful about, that we have to be wary about. And my lesson this morning is about warnings and heeding warnings. Last week we had a lesson on temptations, a great warning about temptations that will come our way. And this morning I want to take a look at why we still fall into temptations. And there are a number of reasons why that, and I hope to show that to you this morning. And that it will help you and it will encourage you in your own life. Here we have a contemporary picture, Yuliia, Chaika, the Ukrainian who's living in Spain right now, called Warning. And it's a subdued painting. It's a subtle painting. It's not bright yellow or orange or red. We usually associate those colors with warnings. It doesn't have bold black stripes around the edge. But nonetheless, we can take a look at that and we see, yes, there are warnings here, subtle warnings. And many of the warnings that we do receive in life are very subtle. And I want to continue on from the reading that Sam gave us this morning in Matthew 26. So we've got the Passover, the last Passover that Jesus would share with his disciples. And Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper. And that's what we just looked at now. And after he had done that, they sang a hymn, and they're going across the Kidron Valley to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus gives a very stern warning, one that should shock his listeners. It really should. You will all become deserters because of me this night. He tells them right out, you are going to fail. You are going to fall. You are going to desert me. Now, you would think that they would accept what Jesus has to say. They would listen to what Jesus says. But instead, they're going to argue with him. Verse 33 and verse 35. And Peter is the primary spokesman here. No, that's not going to happen. Now, let's assume that you have read the gospel. You've read 25 and a half chapters. You don't know what's going to happen. We know, we have the advantage of looking back and we know what's going to happen. Which group are you going to believe? Are you going to believe 11 men? No, we're not going to deny Jesus. Or are you going to believe Jesus? Now, bear in mind, you've already seen what Jesus has done for 25 and a half chapters. And these men have been with Jesus all this time. No, you're wrong, Jesus. You're wrong. Reason number one, why do Christians fall into temptation? Overconfidence. That's the first reason. Right here, we see their overconfidence. Everyone seems to think they are more capable than they actually are. And even in business, we have these various rules, the Peter principle and whatnot. You rise to the level of incompetence. These men are overconfident. And Jesus says, no, it's not just me. This has been prophesied. And he brings up one verse from the passage which we just had read to us from Zechariah. And I want to take a look at Zechariah because we have a saying in English, a word to the wise is sufficient. A subtle warning like this, the wise man is going to catch on. A word to the wise, they will get it right away. And last week with the lesson on temptation, we were left a word. One word. What was that? Flee. And Jesus is giving them the word, so to speak. And so let's just flip back to Zechariah. Strike the shepherd that the sheep may be scattered. I will turn my hand against the little ones. And you are the little ones. You are the disciples here. And I'm the shepherd. I've been telling you for 3 years, I'm the good shepherd. I'm going to be stricken. The sword, awake, O sword, that means execution. I'm going to be executed. Wake up. Pay attention, you guys. I'm giving you a warning, but they are failing to see the warning. His hand is up. It's there. No, we're not going to do that. They're overconfident. And he says people are going to perish because of this. I will put a third, that's less than a majority, into fire and refine them as one refines silver. Silver melts at 1150 degrees. It's not going to melt at 900, which is very hot. It's not going to melt at 1000 or even 1100. It has to be at 1150 degrees. And the silversmith takes the pot. We have a saying, gone to pot. Gone to pot is from metalworking. You take scraps and you throw them in the pot, and they're sitting in the pot just waiting to be melted down, refined. And you take that pot and you start to melt it. Now, today we can just put a temperature and adjust it. But the silversmith, who does not have these advantages, has to look into the pot, look into the pot. And when the silversmith can see his face, he knows that it is melted. And this is the simile which the Bible puts up to us. We will be tested. We will be refined. We see that in multiple passages throughout the scriptures. When God looks into the pot and sees his face, you have been refined. And Peter takes this analogy and he mentions it in 1 Peter 1 when he's telling you, you're worried, you're upset that you're going through these trials, these fiery trials, you are being refined. So Jesus says, you're going to be refined. You're going to be tested like they test gold. But when God looks in the pot and he sees his face on you, when God sees himself in you because you've been refined through those trials, they will call on my name, he says, and I will answer them. And what are we going to say? What is our response going to be? The Lord is our God. And this is the message that Jesus is telling his disciples. It's not written out, but they would understand that if they were wise. But Jesus does also offer forth hope in time of trials and temptations. Because he says to them, yes, you are going to desert me. And it's in the prophecy, but verse 32, after I am raised up. Now he's been telling them all along, I will be raised, I will be raised. Go to Galilee. Here's another simple command. Go. Believe. I'm going to be raised. You go. So Jesus, in our trials, in our temptations, is there for us. He's always offering us hope. There is always hope for us. But they continue to argue with him. No, it's not going to happen, Lord. It's not going to happen. They are not listening to the warning that Jesus gives. How often are we like that as well? We don't heed warnings. We don't beware of what people are telling us. Overconfidence will get us every time. Proverbs 6, 27 and 29. Now, I have to admit, this is more about adultery, but nonetheless, it really does apply to all sins. Can fire be carried in the bosom without burning one's clothes? Or can one walk on hot coals without scorching the feet? So is he who sleeps with his neighbor's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. All right, that's that one specific sin, but it applies to all of them. Do we think that we are special? We look around and we see other people who have committed sins. We read in the scriptures stories of people and we have their warnings. Do we think we're any different? We can get away with it. We're a little bit smarter than the other people. So the first problem that we have and why we fall into sin is overconfidence. But the second one is comparing ourselves to other people. I'm a little bit better than they are, and they might do it. And you take a look in verse 33. I mentioned that Peter's one who argues. And Peter says, these other guys, they might become deserters, but I will never desert you. So you see his overconfidence. You see comparing with other people. Poor Jude there or Bartholomew. They might do it. I can see that, Lord. We can't compare ourselves with other people, but we do it all the time as human beings. And I'm not just talking about Christians. You see it in the workplace. You see it at school. People are always comparing themselves to others. You do that and you're setting yourself up for problems. So Peter is acknowledging Jesus' warning. Yes, okay, Jesus, but that applies to them. It doesn't apply to me. And that's why non-Christians get angry at Christians. You think you're holier than I am, the holier than thou. And that's why they like the media likes these naughty vicar stories. Oh, that person thought he was so good. Well, Christians, as Sam just said this morning, we are like everybody else. We are human. We are liable to fall. So don't think that we have any advantage. You do that and you are allowing pride to get into your life. Only pride looks at the weaknesses of others, and it's arrogance on our part when we do that. So remember this proverb. You can't carry fire and not get burnt. You're going to get burnt just like everybody else is going to get burnt. So take these warnings and take them very seriously. So overconfidence, comparing yourselves to others. But the third warning we see from Peter and from the others, blind spots. I opened up asking you how your driving habits are. I had a very good piece of advice. I remember, I've heard it several times from the late Jack Hoover. Jack Hoover was into professional racing. So he knows about that. Use your mirrors. Use your mirrors. When you're racing around that track with a lot of vehicles all weighing several tons, bunched tight together, you have to know where they are. Use your mirrors, your rear view, your side view mirrors. But all of you know, if you are a driver, there are blind spots. And I'm sure everybody here has a story to tell where you're driving along and all of a sudden, maybe you're fortunate enough to glance over your shoulder, somebody's in your blind spot and you were just about to turn. Now, I know some cars today have those little blind spot indicators. Or maybe I've done this, been foolish enough to drive in somebody's blind spot and they don't know you're there and you have a close call. We have to be aware of our blind spots. And Peter has a blind spot and he doesn't realize it. Blind spots, of course, are frightening. But no, I'm not going to deny you, Jesus. They might. And what does Jesus say to him? You're not going to deny me once, Peter. You're not going to deny me twice. You're going to deny me 3 times. And we've taken a look at that before, and we've seen how this played out in Peter's life. So I don't need to revisit it. But the question that we have to ask ourselves, what are our blind spots? All of us have blind spots. And you probably know what your blind spot is. And when you're driving, you know where the blind spots are, but are you alert to them? Do you heed them? Do you look over your shoulder? Double check in the mirror? What are some potential dangerous spots for us? Well, lust, anger, bitterness, impatience, arrogance, the regular gamut. The question is not do you have it or do you not have it, but are you aware of it? Are you alert to your blind spots? They're very dangerous when you're driving if you ignore them, but they're less dangerous if you heed the warnings. Check over your shoulder if you've got those electronic gizmos or whatever. But overconfidence says we don't have them. I'm going to hop in the car and just drive down the road and zip all over the place. You ignore your blind spots. You're overconfident. Those other drivers are crazy, but I'm the greatest one on the road. These are the things that get people into trouble. And these are the things that endanger Christians as well. Failing to be alert. Now, I'm not quite done because I want to go a little bit further on. I'm going into the Garden of Gethsemane now. They've crossed the Kidron. They're going into the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus has given them the warning. They have not heeded the warning. And he gives them a simple command. Sit here while I go over there and pray. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pray. I'm going to be betrayed tonight. I'm going to die tonight. I'm going to be executed unjustly. Sit, watch, and pray. And that's what he does. And it says here that he becomes to be grieved and agitated. And who wouldn't be? This is the humanity of Jesus. Now we have to remember there's 12 men here, 13 if you count Judas, he's gone. 12 of them are going to fail. 12 of them are going to yield to temptation. 12 of them are going to succumb. Only one is going to emerge successfully from this whole trial, this whole temptation, and that is Jesus. As was mentioned last week, God does not tempt, nor can he be tempted. Jesus, however, was tempted. And I just want to throw this out to you. Jesus can be tempted. Jesus is God. He can be tempted because he's also human. Jesus is not God masquerading as a human, as some of the ancient myths were. He was born as a baby. He grew up as a child. He was a teenager. He became a man. This is genuine. And so Jesus is very much grieved, as you and I would be grieved. Jesus had that added advantage of knowing how he was going to die. And what happens? He comes to them, and they are asleep. He finds them sleeping in verse 40. And he said to Peter, so could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Here's a simple command, one of those words to the wise for us today. Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. So when those trials do come upon us, when those temptations come upon us, we're to be alert. We're not to be overconfident. We're not to compare ourselves with other people. We are to stay awake and we are to pray. You have been warned. In fact, in Luke, it's not in Matthew, Jesus even tells them, Satan has been trying to get you. Satan wants to sift you. He's out to get you. And was mentioned last week in the sermon. Satan is there, and here in this side of the world, we tend to dismiss it. Whereas in Africa, they're wise enough to realize, there are forces out there. You just can't be on your own. We are so overconfident. But Jesus gives us the warning here. Be prepared. Pray. Failing to pray will lead you into temptation. Now, I want you to think a little bit. in your own life? A little bit of reflection this morning. Do you ignore those warnings? Do you ignore your blind spots? Are you overconfident? How different would your life be if you pray? If you are alert to these dangers and you pray when they are there, how do you think that's going to be a little bit different for you? 1 Corinthians 10, verse 12. If you think you are standing, watch out that you do not fall. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength. But with the testing, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it. Trials, temptations are going to come upon us. There's no way we can avoid them. Popular mythology or thought is, well, I can be happy and I will have a great life if I have no problems, no trials, no temptations. That's not the case. It is going to befall all of us. It does. And the people who think that I'm going to live the perfect life if I have enough, whatever, they're deceived and they find it out. But the testing, when it comes, it's common to all people. And if you're standing, if you're not on your knees praying, you may fall. So pray. There's another simple warning. Pray, believe, trust, obey. If we are alert to the dangers, and if we take the time to pray, to lay our problems and troubles before the Lord, he will be there. He will not abandon you. But if we're overconfident, if we're pride, if we're arrogant, we compare ourselves to others, we drive down the road ignoring the dangers that are all about us, we will succumb. So I leave that message to you this morning. And although he's not here, I thank Isaac for his lesson, which was the springboard leading into this. And I thank Sam for his table talk. He didn't know what I was talking about. It fits in together. And that's why we do come here together. We come to encourage one another to see what God's word says. The greatest owner's manual, operator's manual for us as human beings is found in this book. Thank you.